So picture this. You're on a beautiful boat. The sun is shining. The water is, it's practically glowing, and you are just completely living the dream.
Oh, absolutely. The whole work from anywhere lifestyle.
Right. You've fully embraced it. You've got your coffee. You flip open your laptop, and you join that crucial video meeting with your executive team.
Feeling pretty good about yourself, I imagine.
Oh, feeling incredibly smug about your office view. And then the absolute second the captain unties the lines and pulls away from the dock, your Zoom call drops.
Just completely gone.
Just freezes. You're officially offline.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's basically the modern mariner's nightmare. I mean, you have this $1 million view, but you are completely digitally stranded.
Yeah.
You're holding a piece of very expensive aluminum and glass that, frankly, can't even send a text message.
Welcome to today's Deep Dives, where we're going to unpack an expert guide for marine data solutions, or MDS. It's written by marine network architect Michael Robilio, and it asks a seemingly simple question.
Right. What is the best internet connection for a boat?
Exactly. We are going to map out exactly how to stay connected on the open water. Because honestly, solving the marine internet puzzle, it feels like the ultimate test of networking.
It really is. Because when you're out there, you are fighting physics, weather, and geography all at once. Like, this isn't just a buying guide for a new gadget.
Right, bigger than that.
Much bigger. It's about architecting a system that anticipates failure and adapts in real time to an incredibly hostile digital environment.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we talk about the solutions or, the shiny hardware, we have to understand the core problem.
We really do.
We have to talk about why the internet setup that's currently sitting on your desk at home is completely hilariously useless on the water. I mean, if I have a dead zone in my guest bedroom, I know exactly where it is.
Because it's always there.
Yeah. It's static. I can just put a mesh repeater in the hallway and boom, the problem is solved permanently.
What's fascinating here is that your home environment is entirely static. You've got a physical fiber or cable line that's literally buried in the ground running to your house.
Right.
You have one internet service provider. You have one router. And crucially, your house does not move.
Right. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. The physical geometry of the walls, the router, and your laptop never changes.
Oh.
But boat internet is fundamentally different.
Because a vessel operates with, 6 degrees of freedom?
Exactly. It pitches, rolls, yaws, heaves, sways, and surges. It is constantly moving between different coverage zones.
And rotating rate.
Yes, which introduces shifting physical obstructions between your antenna and whatever your signal source is.
So trying to use a home network on a boat is basically like expecting your house to keep its Wi-Fi while driving down the highway, through a tunnel, and straight into a thunderstorm.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And this shifts our entire paradigm of what a good connection actually is. The best connection, well, it isn't a permanent state on a boat.
Because it's always changing.
Right. It changes entirely based on the vessel's physical location and its operating conditions at any given millisecond.
Wow. Any given millisecond.
Yeah. So a connection that performs flawlessly while you are tied up in the dock might become incredibly unstable just near the shore and then just vanish entirely once you go offshore.
But see, if I'm outfitting a boat tomorrow, my instinct is to just throw money at the problem.
Right, just buy the biggest thing.
Exactly. Buy the biggest, most expensive, highest gain antenna available, bolt it to the roof, and just call it a day.
But you can't brute force your way to good marine internet with one giant piece of hardware. I mean, if that massive antenna relies on a coastal cell tower and you sail 50 miles offshore...
There's nothing to connect to.
Exactly. There is simply no signal for it to catch. The physics of radio frequency transmission dictate that distance and line of sight will eventually defeat any single antenna, no matter how much you paid for it.
Okay, so let's walk through the physical journey of a boat leaving land, because the MDS guide breaks marine connectivity down based on where the boat is physically located.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Right. So let's start at the dock. This is what they call Layer 1, the marina Wi-Fi zone. And the guide explicitly warns against treating this as your primary internet connection for a serious network.
Oh, absolutely. Marina Wi-Fi can be useful for background tasks like downloading software updates overnight, maybe some basic web browsing.
But not the Zoom call.
Definitely not the Zoom call. If you try to rely on it for anything heavy, like remote desktop sessions or 4K streaming, it usually just collapses.
Why is that? Just too many people?
Partially, yeah. Dockside Wi-Fi is often shared among dozens, sometimes hundreds of boats. And Wi-Fi operates on specific radio frequencies, usually 2.4 and 5 gigahertz.
Okay.
So when you have 100 boats cramped into a marina, all broadcasting their own internal Wi-Fi networks, plus the marina's main access points, plus the harbor master's wireless security cameras.
That sounds like a mess.
It is. You get massive RF interference. The signals literally just step on each other.
Plus, I'd imagine it's incredibly distance sensitive.
Oh, very much so.
Like, if you are lucky enough to be parked right next to the marina's main router, you might get decent speeds.
Right.
But if you're out on the transient dock at the far end of the marina, the signal has just decayed by the time it reaches you.
Exactly. And then you throw in, say, a holiday weekend where everyone is down at their boats trying to stream movies.
Oh, man. The available bandwidth just gets sliced incredibly thin.
Which is why the moment the captain unties those lines and the boat idles out of the marina, that congested Wi-Fi connection usually drops entirely.
Which moves the vessel into the near shore zone. Layer 2.
Yes. And this brings us to LTE and 5G cellular internet. When coastal tower coverage is available, this provides really fast speeds, low latency, and honestly a much lower operating cost compared to other options.
Okay, wait. I hear the term latency thrown around a lot when comparing these connections. What is latency actually measuring in this specific context?
Oh, sure. So latency is essentially the round-trip delay of your data. When you click a link or speak on a Zoom call, data packets have to travel from your device to the internet source to the server and back again.
So it's the lag.
Exactly, the lag. With coastal 5G, that distance is short, maybe just a few miles to a cell tower on the beach, which is plugged directly into terrestrial fiber optic cables.
Got it.
So that round trip happens in just a few milliseconds, making video calls feel snappy and really natural.
But there is a hard physical boundary here, right? Because the guide cites Boat US, noting that cellular connections are typically limited to about 15 to 25 miles from shore.
That's right.
But wait, if a cell tower on the coast is blasting a signal out over open water and there aren't any buildings or trees in the way, why wouldn't it go further than 25 miles?
There are two main reasons. First, the curvature of the Earth.
Oh, right. The ocean isn't actually flat.
Nope. Even if you have a really tall cell tower on the beach and a tall antenna on your boat's mast, eventually the physical curve of the planet just blocks the line of sight between them.
Because radio waves don't bend.
Exactly. Radio waves at cellular frequencies don't bend around the Earth. They basically shoot straight out into space.
Wow. Okay. And the second reason?
Well, communication is a two-way street. It's not just about the tower shouting a signal to your boat. Your boat's modem has to have the transmission power to shout back to the tower.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and cellular modems are highly regulated. They simply don't have the wattage to push a signal 30 miles back to the shore.
So you hit that invisible 25-mile wall, and your low-latency 5G just drops to zero.
You are officially offshore.
Which is layer 3. This is where satellite internet takes over as the absolute lifeline. The guide highlights Starlink Maritime specifically.
Yes, Starlink has been a huge game changer here.
They point out that their performance kit is capable of 400+ megabits per second download speeds, and it's designed for permanent installation on vessels.
Right. When a boat leaves cellular range or undertakes, say, international ocean crossings, a low Earth orbit satellite constellation like Starlink is essential.
I mean, it provides broadband speeds in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That was practically science fiction a decade ago.
It really was. It's incredible technology.
But this brings me to a major question.
Right.
Wait, if Starlink is pulling down 400 megabits per second and it's a global satellite network that works everywhere, why bother with the dock Wi-Fi or the coastal cell towers at all? Like, why not just bolt a Starlink to the roof, ignore the other networks completely, and just leave it on 247?
That is the exact trap so many boat owners fall into. They treat satellite as a magic bullet.
But it's not.
No. Satellite systems are incredibly capable, but they are still vulnerable to the physical realities of the marine environment.
Like what?
Well, first, heavy weather. Rain fade is a very real phenomenon. Heavy precipitation or thick storm clouds actually physically absorb the radio frequency energy traveling between your dish and the satellite in space.
Oh, wow. So the storm literally eats the internet.
Basically, yes. It severely degrades the connection.
And what about the boat itself? Because the guide mentions obstruction issues.
All right, so boats have incredibly complex superstructures. They have masts, radar domes, outriggers, secondary control towers.
Right.
And a satellite dish needs a clear, unobstructed view of the sky to track satellites that are moving in orbit.
Because the satellites aren't stationary.
Exactly. They're zipping across the sky. So as the boat turns or pitches in heavy seas, those structures on your boat can physically eclipse the dish's view.
And if that happens?
If the dish loses line of sight to the satellite passing overhead, your connection drops instantly.
Yikes. And the latency issue comes back into play here too, right?
Yes, it does.
Because even with low Earth orbit satellites, that signal still has to travel hundreds of miles straight up into space, hit a moving satellite, beam down to a ground station, fetch the data, and then do that whole trip in reverse.
Precisely. Now, while Starlink has vastly improved satellite latency compared to older, geostationary satellites, it still generally have higher latency than a nearshore 5G connection.
So there's still a bit of a lag.
Yeah. If you are doing highly interactive tasks like remote desktop control or fast-paced stock trading, that extra delay is definitely noticeable.
So relying purely on satellite just creates a massive single point of failure.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, exactly. If a storm rolls in or your mast blocks the dish and you don't have an LTE backup ready to go, your vessel is entirely offline.
And this leads directly to the core thesis of the MDS guide. The ultimate answer to the question, what is the best connection for a boat, isn't one specific connection at all.
No, it's not.
It's the hybrid marine internet system. You aren't choosing between satellite, LTE, and marina Wi-Fi. You are integrating all three of them into one intelligently managed onboard network.
And to achieve that, you need a multi-WAN marine router.
Right. The brands mentioned in the guide include Peplink, Pepwave, and the MDS Blender.
Yes. And WAN stands for Wide Area Network.
Yeah.
Essentially, this is a specialized router that can ingest multiple internet sources simultaneously.
So taking all of them in at once.
Right. It serves as the brain of the entire operation. It is constantly monitoring the health, latency, and packet loss of every single connection, several times a second.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like an automatic transmission for your internet.
That's a good way to put it.
You don't have to sit there manually shifting gears between the cell tower and the satellite as you drive away from the dock. The router is the engine making all those micro decisions for you behind the scenes.
Yes. That automatic transmission concept is exactly how failover algorithms work.
Failover. Okay, explain that.
So if that mast we talked about temporarily blocks the Starlink dish, the router instantly detects the dropped packets and steers your ongoing Zoom call over to the LTE connection.
Instantly.
It does this in milliseconds, so seamlessly that the end user usually has no idea the underlying connection just changed.
That is wild. Let's talk about bonding connections, though, because the guide mentions this, and honestly, it sounds a bit like marketing speak. What is the router actually doing when it bonds connections together?
Bonding is actually a fascinating technical process. It's where the router aggregates the bandwidth of multiple distinct internet sources.
Okay.
Imagine you need to send a massive, say, 1,000-page encyclopedia to an office on land.
Got it.
If you use failover, you send the whole thing over Starlink. If Starlink drops, the router just starts the transmission all over again using LTE.
Which causes an interruption.
Right.
Yeah.
But with bonding, the router actually shreds that encyclopedia into individual pages, which are the data packets.
Oh, wow.
It sends 400 pages over the Starlink dish, 400 over the 5G modem, and maybe 200 over a secondary LTE connection, all simultaneously.
So it's utilizing the pipe of every available connection at the exact same time to push the data through faster.
Yes. And on the other side, usually at a cloud data center run by the router manufacturer, those shredded packets are caught, reassembled in the correct order, and then sent to their final destination.
That is incredible.
It provides true session persistence. Your video call or your VPN doesn't just switch connections quickly. Its data is literally riding on multiple connections at once.
So if one drops,
the other connections just absorb the remaining packets. The Zoom call literally cannot tell that a connection was lost.
think about the workflow implications of that. Your laptop is connected to one single Wi-Fi network on the boat.
Right, just boat Wi-Fi.
Exactly. You never have to open your settings to manually switch from, boat Starlink to boat 5G, depending on where you are. The router handles all the chaos of the marine environment and just hands you a quiet, stable, office-like connection.
But to get that seamless experience, you really have to design the system correctly from the ground up.
Which brings us to the pitfalls.
Right. The guide dedicates a significant section to dodging common pitfalls. It emphasizes that the most effective systems are designed around real operational requirements, not just whatever equipment looks impressive in a catalog.
So what does this all mean for the person actually signing the check? Because if I want this hybrid setup on my boat, How do I avoid setting a pile of money on fire? It sounds like you could easily buy all the right pieces and still end up with a terrible network.
Oh, it happens all the time. The very first step in architecture is mapping your cruising area.
Okay.
You have to define the physical reality of where this vessel operates. If the boat mostly stays dockside or cruises near shore along the coast, heavy investment in multi-carrier 5G modems and high-gain cellular antennas is your priority.
Makes sense.
But if the vessel frequently crosses to the Bahamas or does deep ocean passages, then multiple satellite systems become the critical infrastructure.
You also have to estimate user demand, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
A single captain needing to pull down, say, text-based weather routing files requires a tiny fraction of the bandwidth compared to a yacht loaded with 5 guests.
Oh, yeah. 5 guests who all expect to stream 4K video to their own iPads simultaneously.
Right, while the owner is trading stocks in the salon.
Exactly. And you also need to define your critical applications. Like, if the owner depends on video conferencing or cloud-based software, the system architecture must prioritize low latency and bonding.
Yes. The router has to be configured to recognize video traffic and steer it to the most stable connection, rather than just the connection with the highest raw throughput.
Let's talk about the testing phase, because this seems to be where a lot of systems just completely fall apart.
It's a huge issue.
The guide stresses that just turning the system on at the dock and seeing full bars on your phone is completely insufficient.
Dock testing is a false positive.
Because you're just sitting there.
Right. You are sitting completely still, usually within range of shore-based cell towers. You must test the system offshore, and most importantly, you have to test it in motion.
Because that's when you actually stress the hardware.
Exactly.
When the boat is pitching and rolling in a 6-foot swell, the satellite dish's internal tracking motors have to work furiously to maintain a lock on a satellite that's moving thousands of miles an hour in orbit.
And you're forcing the cellular modems to constantly negotiate handoffs between different towers on the coast as the boat moves down the shoreline.
So a system might look structurally perfect on paper.
But if the failover algorithms aren't tuned correctly for an environment in motion, the entire network will stutter every single time the boat turns.
Wow. The guide also lists some brutally common mistakes, and I have to say, my favorite is people trying to use consumer Wi-Fi equipment on large vessels.
Oh, it's classic.
Like someone brings their standard $50 plastic home router onto a 100-foot yacht and then wonders why the Wi-Fi signal can't reach the engine room.
It's because large vessels are constructed from steel, aluminum, and carbon fiber.
Which are terrible for Wi-Fi.
They act as massive Faraday cages. They literally block and absorb radio frequencies. A standard home router cannot push a Wi-Fi signal through a solid steel bulkhead.
So what's the fix?
Marine networks require enterprise-grade access points hardwired throughout the vessel to ensure internal coverage.
Other mistakes they mention include installing Starlink with poor sky visibility, like tucking it under a radar arch where half its view is permanently blocked.
Very common.
Or completely ignoring guest bandwidth management, allowing one person to download a massive video game update that just suffocates the network for everyone else on board.
And this points to a fundamental mindset shift that the guide advocates for.
Which is?
We are conditioned as consumers to buy a specific gadget to fix a specific problem. If the internet is slow, we buy a faster dish.
Right.
But in harsh, unpredictable environments, you cannot buy a silver bullet gadget. You are not buying a connection, you are building a resilient network architecture.
That's a great point.
The strongest marine internet solutions are mapped out on a whiteboard before a single piece of hardware is ever purchased.
Well, we've covered a lot of nautical miles here. Let's bring it back to the dock and summarize the primary takeaway for everyone.
That's good.
If you are trying to stay connected on the water, the best internet for a boat is a layered hybrid system that adapts to its environment. It utilizes LTE and 5G near shore for fast, low latency speeds.
Right.
It leans heavily on satellite offshore to maintain a global lifeline. It grabs marina Wi-Fi when tied up to manage data loads.
And crucially, it uses a multi-WAN router to constantly monitor, bond, and seamlessly stitch all those connections together. It basically takes the chaotic, physics-defying reality of a moving vessel and manages it so effectively behind the scenes that the end user never notices the heavy lifting.
Which brings up a really fascinating final thought. We started this deep dive talking about the dream of working from anywhere. You're on a beautiful boat, the sun is shining.
We're living the dream.
Exactly. And we've just spent the last 15 minutes mapping out exactly how to engineer a network that perfectly recreates the stability, speed, and continuous uptime of a downtown office building, even if you are 100 miles offshore.
And honestly, the technical achievement of that is genuinely awe-inspiring. I mean, to have unbroken session persistence while moving across an ocean is a marvel of modern engineering.
It really is. But here's a philosophical twist for you to mull over.
Oh boy, let's hear it.
If a perfectly designed hybrid marine network allows a boat to have the exact same uninterrupted, always-on connectivity as your desk at work, what happens to the romantic idea of getting away from it all?
Oh.
I mean, if you can join a remote desktop session and answer 50 emails seamlessly while bobbing in the middle of the ocean, has the ultimate nautical escape just become another floating cubicle?
That is a very fair point. It is the ultimate double-edged sword of modern connectivity.
Yeah.
We build these incredible architectures to ensure we are never out of reach, which means we are never truly out of reach.
The technology ensures you never lose your connection to the world, but maybe sometimes losing the connection was the whole point of getting on the boat in the first place. Something to ponder the next time you find yourself staring at your phone hoping for a signal. Until next time, stay curious and maybe just occasionally enjoy the dead zones.